Welcome back to my channel for my weekly Human Design Transit Report. Today is Monday, April 18th, and the transit that we're in right now started last Saturday, and in my last week's transit report, I talked quite a bit about it. So if you want to check that out, then go ahead and take a look here at last week's transit report. I do want to make a couple of comments, and then we're going to go on to move to the transit that's going to start happening on Saturday. So right now the sun is in the gate 3, which in traditional human design is known as ordering, and in quantum human design is known as innovation. And the earth is in gate 50, which in traditional human design is values, and in quantum human design is known as nurturing. And so one of these is in the knowing circuit, one is in the tribal circuit. We're going to have exactly the same circuits involved, but they're going to be in reverse order when we move into the next transit that's happening on Friday. What I want to emphasize here is that this tribal energy of the 50, which is about how we know who we are as a people and how do we pass that on. It's part of the defense circuit or the sustainability circuit. So it's a small sub-circuit of the tribal circuit, but it's really important because it's families, it's close in, it's how we relate to our elders and to our children. And so this gate 50 is about how we know who we are. And part of how we know who we are is how do we treat our children and how do we treat our elders, and indeed what is our relationship to the tribe, and what is the relationship of the individual to the family, to the group, and so on. All of those kind of different pieces. And Karen Curry Parker, in renaming it as nurturing in quantum human design, has kind of stamped what, in her view, and I agree with, is the higher expression of this kind of energy, which is that how we know who we are as a people is by how we nurture ourselves and each other. How do we nurture our young? How do we nurture our elders? How do we nurture our community and our tribe? And so when the sun moves into the gate 27, which it's going to do on Friday, it's going to move from one half of that channel into the other half of the channel. So in effect, that whole channel is going to be lit up over these couple of weeks here. The question I want to pose to you is, what are your values? What do you believe are the ways that we should be with one another? What are the ways that you want to see the tribe and the community operate? So nurturing is a statement about how we think is the higher expression of this type of energy. What would you think of that? What would you think of the values that matter to you? And these may not be on the surface of your mind because they may have become so kind of just a part of how you think that it's obvious to you. I did a reading for a woman not too long ago who had the gate 50 defined in her chart, and I was talking to her about her values and how important it is for her to know what they are and for her to be really taking action on and living out of values that she consciously believes in. And she said, well, I don't really know about values. I haven't really thought about it. And I said, well, you told me a little while ago that you have this great relationship and that you've been together for 20 years and that it's a really mutually supportive relationship. So I'd imagine one of your values in relationship is that you foster each other's growth, you support each other to be who you are, while also making your relationship a priority, and that those are values for her. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, absolutely, I do believe that. And I said, well, yeah, okay, so that's a value. You just may not have thought about it as a value. So it's interesting to me as we look into this week, is right now we're grounded in this gate about values, okay? Like, who are we? How do we take care of each other? Is taking care of each other one of our values? As I said, I think it is for me. Is it for you? And if so, what does that actually look like? And then it's going to partner with the sun moving into the 27, and the 27 is its mate, and it is actually on the sacral, whereas the 50 is on the spleen center. And so on Friday, we're going to have the sun move into that 27, and the 27 in traditional human design is known as responsibility, and in quantum human design as accountability. Now, before we move forward into going into that more, I also want to note that Friday, the April 22nd, is Earth Day. And this is a really important day for us to be acknowledging and paying attention to. And there's many, many different opportunities for each and every one of us to be involved in something that expresses our value of our caring for the earth. So right now, when we're in the state of values, is for you to be thinking about what are your values in relation to the earth. Do you believe that it would be good for us to have clean food, clean water, clean air, for us to have regenerative agriculture, for us to have renewable sources of energy that are non-polluting? Are those values for you? And be leaning into that, and then knowing on Friday you can tap in and see all of the different activities. Actually, they're already starting now, that are happening around Earth Day. And in fact, they're happening all around the planet. So here is a website that you can go to where you can find it out. They also have a little video that you can check it out. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about all of this in my Thursday's video this week. But for right now, I just want to encourage you to get on board with already looking at what's happening with Earth Day, and to be seeing how can you participate in some way. It doesn't have to be a big way. It can be a small way. It can be a big way if you've got energy for it, and if you know that it's really going to make you feel better to be participating more. So as the sun moves into the gate 27 on Friday, we're having this immense energy in this gate, which traditionally I always think of it as the mother-grandmother gate. That's how it was introduced to me. And it is very nurturing, and it is responsible, right? Because mother and grandmother we do take a lot of responsibility for the youngers, and those of us who are in the middle years take responsibility for the olders also. And so what are our ways of being responsible and being accountable? And the danger of the 27 is that we give to our own detriment. And that we aren't making sure that we're also getting what we need, and we're paying attention to what our inner desires are. And we kind of efface ourselves and just give. That's a really disempowered energy around this, when you overgive, when you're a caretaker to the point that you're actually harming yourself, which unfortunately sometimes people do. The shadow aspect can be if you're actually using that kind of responsibility to try to control others. Like if you're being one of those controlling moms, controlling parents, right? So you want to watch out for that. But the more awakened is to recognize that others are sovereign beings. You are a sovereign being. And because we're in this world together, part of our role is to tap into and support each other, and to see how we can create mutually beneficial scenarios for everyone, right? That is part of it. But it's also not about becoming codependent, either, in the sense that we are seeing other people as needing to be rescued, which is kind of a shadowy part of this energy, right? Whether we see people as being deficient, unable, they can't help themselves, and so on. And then we can become a little too controlling. Or, as I said, we give over our power to others by overgiving and depleting ourselves to the point where we're not really even helpful anymore, right? And so the accountability has to do with the accountability to ourselves, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. But there's also an accountability to the tribe. This is a tribal energy, right? And so my invitation to you is to be considering, here the sun is moving into this gate for Earth Day. Right? And so what is our relationship to our earth? How do we recognize the power of our earth, of beautiful Gaia, and recognize her as a sovereign being? And at the same time, how do we nurture and take care of and take responsibility for the ways that we may have contributed to harming this great planet that is our home? And how do we start to make amends for that? How do we resolve that? How do we come to a place where we can be more in right relationship with each other, so that we're not overly taking, because that's kind of the other side of that 27, right? Is if you're just taking, and you're not being accountable for what you've taken, and you're not looking at how your behavior is influencing and impacting others, whether that's other people, but it's also the other species on the planet, the ecosystems that are part of our planet, and then of course our world as a whole. And then on Earth Day, on Friday, the 22nd, the Earth is going to move into the gate 28. And this is in the knowing circuit, so it's individual circuitry. And the 28 is known as the gate of struggle in traditional human design, or the gate of challenge in quantum human design. And it's got a bad rap. Actually, it's got a really bad reputation, struggle. That the life is kind of gnarly if you have this defined in your chart. I have this defined in my chart, and it's a tricky energy. It is. But it's very, very powerful. And when you are able to really kind of grasp a hold and harness this energy and direct it where you will, which is what we do when we take command as sovereign beings, which is what I do with my feminine sovereignty work, is I teach how to do this, is that when you do that, you can really shift that energy of struggle into challenge and even into opportunity, because struggle is an attitude more than actually what's happening. Because the truth is that life is just going to dish out challenge to you. I mean, it is. Challenge is just part of our experience here in the Earth School, right? And challenge is also how we grow. It's how we get challenged to be creative, to tap into our imagination, to problem solve, to co-create and collaborate with others and come up with new solutions and new ideas. And it is in the knowing circuit. So the 28 is going to be tapped in to super consciousness to be able to be receiving downloads and divine guidance so that we can have new possibilities, new potentials, new ways of understanding things and thinking and new perspectives and so on. So it has built into it that potential. But if we are in a disempowered state and we're seeing ourselves as victims and we're living from a victim consciousness, then we struggle, right? We struggle, right? It's like, oh, why does this always happen to me? Things were always so hard, right? And so what you want to be able to do is anytime you start going down that, that dark road, which we all do it sometimes, right? Is to be able to turn around and come back and say, okay, where's the challenge in this, right? You don't have to get to the gift. I know some of you say, there's a gift in every challenge. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe, but you may not be there yet. You want to be able to just get to what the challenge is and what the growth edge is, because every challenge will provide you with a growth edge. And so that's what you want to look for. That's where the opportunity is what is the growth edge. Okay. And when you meet your growth edge and you actually move forward with it, you're saying, I'm going to take on this challenge. That is when you get to move to a whole nother level of consciousness, and you get to develop skills and capacities that you maybe don't already have, that you need, and maybe that you knew that you needed, but you didn't think they were possible for you. But when you come to that edge, that growth edge, which, as you know, is at the end of your comfort zone, right? You got to get out of that comfort zone to go over to your growth edge, right? That's what challenge is. It's outside your comfort zone. And when you go into that, this is where the magic is. This is where your soul curriculum is, according to human design, is being on that leading edge of consciousness, being on your own growth edge, and being willing to go for it. I think we all know that facing climate change and ecological collapse and, the big social and human rights situations that we're facing in the world today, these are all big challenges, right? And we can see them as struggle. We can see them as having to fight, or we can be like, okay, where is the growth edge with this? This is something that challenges every single one of us. And my invitation to you is to find something that you can do this week, and when we move into this transit, something you can do, even if that's planting something in your garden, even if it is, there's a group that I purchased from, they have white label products called Public Goods, all super high quality products, and they will plant a tree when you make an order with them. So I just made an order with them, and they're going to plant a tree in my name. There are a variety of different organizations where you can do that. If you purchase from them, then they will plant trees for you or do other things to help offset their carbon footprint. So you can look simply to purchase from organizations like that, but you can also do other things where you join with others. Oftentimes there's people who are going in and cleaning up parks, they're cleaning up beaches, they're looking at how can we restore wetlands, they're looking at planting trees, they're looking at how to participate in regenerative agriculture, so many different opportunities that they're there. So I encourage you just to find something you can do. And invite a friend, do something with a friend or a group of friends. Because when we feel like the issues are too big, right? And let's face it, a lot of times we can feel that way. We can feel kind of paralyzed looking at how big things are. It's when we can start taking action. Even small actions can make a big difference. And the thing is that small actions can really lead to bigger actions. In the video I'm going to put out on Thursday, I'm actually going to tell you a couple of stories of people who, just like you, were inspired by an idea and they took action and they started out small, and then how it grew and grew and grew until there were a lot of different people. They had created kind of whole villages around them, based on the vision that they had. So I'm going to share some stories that I hope will inspire you around that and encourage you, not necessarily to think that you're going to go and do something that's going to change your whole city, although you might want to do that, but just something that you can start with, even just this coming weekend with your friends. So the invitation is to really ground yourself in that energy of facing challenges and breakthroughs and bringing in leading edge ideas and going for your growth at that very edge point, and grounding yourself in that so that you can give energy to your own accountability and your own responsibility, and then looking at how that is a part of what's going on for all of us here on the planet, what's happening for you and with your family, with people that you're close in with people in your larger community, and how can you and all of us be engaging with the values that we really believe in, and not just tolerating our lives moving along based on values, like of extracting as much as we possibly can from the earth and not caring about the pollution. Like, how can we actually decide to step outside of that behavior into a different way of being in the world? That is the invitation to us right now. So I hope that you will take some time and really lean into that, and just even doing a couple of things this week, you'd be amazed at the difference in how you feel and what can actually happen. Okay, many blessings, much love. Bye for now.